Hello everyone. We are here answering your controversial relationship questions. And a lot of them aren't, the questions themselves aren't controversial that you've submitted, but our answers are sometimes. So that's why I say that. So please don't be offended. I don't think there's anything wrong with your questions. Your questions are amazing, and the answers to them can kind of lead us to some interesting places.
Yeah.
So that's why I pulled Ryan in on these so we can talk about that and kind of flesh out the different options and scenarios and answers to these questions. So let's jump right in. This question says, I met a guy that I really like, but he is in an open relationship with someone else. I'm trying to wrap my head around this and decide if I really want to / can pursue anything with him. I have never thought about having anything but a committed relationship. I'm not sure what to think about this. Do you think open relationships can work? Interested in any advice or thoughts that you have? And I'm laughing because monogamous spell check to mongoose, which is hilarious.
Wow.
A mongoose relationship. So, do you think open relationships can work? What do you think about that, Christian?
I think they can work because I know people who are in open relationships. I think, however, it's not as straightforward as people would think because it comes with a lot of self-awareness, a lot of security, because okay, you're entertaining the idea of doing it because you like the person, right? But you have to ask yourself like what you're comfortable with, and then when you identify those things, like what you're comfortable with and then what you want out of it, you need to have a conversation with the person, one. And then two, in the event that those things are not met, like it's not black and white. Like it's like anything else, it's gonna be a process. So even in identifying those things, don't think that when they identify that you're gonna go into this and it's gonna pan out the way you either want or think it should. But accepting even more that because it's an open relationship, you have to go in with maybe a bit more openness to like what you would experience is not what your friends may experience because they're not open relationships. The perspectives that you're going to get are not going to be there for you to give relation to because this is not a common thing. Like you're asking the question because it's not common, right?
No.
So even trying to identify like what you're going to encounter and the possibilities is not even that easy because, as I said, it's not a common thing. It's not something that is every day. I think it is possible, but like it's not going to be black and white. Like I'm not saying don't do it, but
Take caution.
Yeah.
And really evaluate.
Yeah. A lot of evaluation, a lot of conversations, and a lot of acceptance, because as I said, like in anything, things may not go as you planned or you agreed upon, and a lot of what you may be accustomed to will be totally opposite, and some of them you can't see from beforehand. Like some things you wouldn't be able to identify or foresee, and when they happen, because of your past experience, you can't make sense of it because it's not the same situation, and then you may feel slighted, or you may feel hurt, or you may feel betrayed somewhat. And like as I said, as she said rightfully, you have to proceed with caution, and I would say go in expecting or giving yourself in a more open light to expect things that you like.
Expect the unexpected?
Yeah, expect the unexpected.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this is interesting because I had this conversation recently with a client who recently broke up with her boyfriend and had gotten back into the dating world and the online dating world and all the apps. and she was shocked that there were so many open relationships now. And she had been dating this guy for a while, so she was like back on the dating scene and just like shocked. And she asked me, like, is this a thing now? Like, is this what everyone's doing now? Because she felt like it was just so common, whereas when she had first started dating this guy, this wasn't really as much of a thing, at least as open of a thing. So obviously, this has been happening for a long time. There's always been different kinds of relationships, but I think the kind of social dating online world has opened up it so people can seek it more openly and like find these kind of relationships more openly. And I think sometimes that works and that really works for people. And other times I think it doesn't, and people just don't want to settle down or they don't want to commit. So they say they want open relationships, but they really just want to date whoever they want to date, right? And they just want to do whatever they want to do. But that's different than a very constructed open relationship and like a open relationship with boundaries. So there's there's different kinds of relationships. There's people who just actually don't want anything. There's people who are in very structured relationships. Like I know a couple who they're very committed to each other and they're their number one. They're committed, but they allow each other to go and do certain things, but it's very structured in what they allow and how they allow it. So that wouldn't, if you are looking for someone to be your number one, you shouldn't get into a relationship with someone who has that situation. So in this question, I would wonder like what his open relationship is. So it says he's in an open relationship. So does that mean that he has a serious commitment to one person and they allow them each other to still date? Because if that's the case and you're wanting to be with him in the number one slot way, this is a weird way to talk about it, but that's not going to happen probably, right? So I would, like you said, spend some time understanding what you want and what you can do, and also really understand what you're getting into, right? What are you stepping into in this relationship? What does that look like? And are you okay with not being that number one person? Are you okay with not growing into a committed monogamous relationship? Because if you want a committed monogamous relationship, that it would be dumb to go into something like this, right? But if you're okay with something else, or you want to explore something else, or maybe you've wondered about this before, then go in. But just like you said, go in with your eyes open, go in with an understanding that it could go in a lot of different directions. Just make sure that you stay clear on what you want and what you're okay with, and that you don't kind of compromise that, because it's really important to stay clear on, there's a bug falling across the camera. So yeah, that's happening. But just don't compromise what you want and what you're okay with. So I would say make sure you're clear on that and don't compromise that. But other than that, like, explore what you can, and maybe you'll find something that actually works better for you. That's possible too. So I think they can work for sure, but you have to really want that, and that has to really work for you and your personality and what you want long term, or at least right now.
And expect the unknowns. Like, expect the things that, I say, you haven't done it before, so it's going to be a challenge for, as I said, something that you're not accustomed to happen, and for you to automatically accept it for what it is. Because I say, you may perceive it as sometimes disrespectful, and that's where the conversation has to be had. Like, hey, so this happened and this is how I felt about it. What does this mean? Like, and then in that process, then you would see, okay, what is working for you? What isn't working for you? Can I do this? Can I not do this? And
I agree. So I would be interested to see how this,
hear
how this pans out and what you think about this, and if you decide to further something with this person or not, or why you decide to further something with this person or not. So if you want to follow up with me, follow up. Even if you want to just follow up on the anonymous question, you can submit another, like, hey, just to follow up, we'd be interested to hear how this goes, and if you have any insight that you learned from this whole experience, I think that would be helpful too. So let us know.
Okay.
And good luck.